I want to get into Zach Wilson because a lot of Jet fans yesterday were about to jump off the bridge. Every single Jet fan on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, anybody that follows the New York football green Jets were about to jump off the bridge yesterday. You think over the last couple of weeks and what Robert Saleh has done with OTAs, not practicing as much, trying to keep everybody fresh, keeping them off the field, not putting pads on as much as every other team, trying to keep them safe and trying to keep them healthy. You losing your starting offensive right tackle the week before the first preseason game in Mekhi Becton for the season. They thought it was something small. So what did the Jets do? Within 48 hours, they signed Pro Bowl Dwayne Brown to a 2-year deal worth about $22 million. And then he doesn't even play in the game because he's got to get acclimated in the offense. The preseason game, everybody's looking forward to it. They're playing the Philadelphia Eagles. And what happens? 2 drives, 1 interception, and an injured quarterback. A quarterback moves out of a roll, runs about 20 yards, tries to move away from a linebacker, and it looked like he stretched his knee. After he gets up and he's limping, you think he's okay. You think he's just trying to get to the sidelines, and then he falls back to his knees, and then all the trainers come running out. Robert Saleh comes running out. It looks really bad. He walks off the field. He goes to the locker room, and then all these things, all over social media, Twitter, everybody's a doctor, including the doctors. Oh, it's a torn ACL. And then everybody, from Hughes to Samini, everybody saying it could be the end of the New York Jets this year after 5 plays. Zach Wilson could be out for the season. The Jets season is done. Let's talk about the draft next year. Let's talk about the quarterback they draft next year. The Zach Wilson story is over. Then as the game prolongs, more and more stuff comes out that Zach Wilson is walking without a knee brace in the back. He doesn't have anything sad. He's not crying in the back in the locker room. Then the game ends. The Jets win. Big whoop. It's a preseason game. It's against the Eagles, and they were playing their 4th or 5th bench warmers. Robert Saleh goes up there and says that he believes Zach Wilson ACL is intact, which means it's not an ACL. It takes away the alarm when a lot of the inside people believe that his ACL is intact. So if you're a Jet fan right now saying, I don't know what's going to happen, is the season over for the Jets? I would push more 70% no, 30% yes. Nevertheless, the Jets got themselves an offensive tackle who I believe was the best offensive tackle available still in the offseason, in Dwayne Brown, who is 37 years old, but you heard Robert Saleh say they believe he has a lot of football left. The last 4 seasons, he has been 100% healthy. He's played in almost every single game. Is he better than Mekhi Becton? For right now, in a short move when it comes to the New York Jets and where the Jets need to be, yes, I think it's a great move for the Jets. Does Dwayne Brown play the left tackle position? Does he play the right tackle position? Only time will tell in the preseason. But if you're a Jet fan right now, Speedy, you're not happy about the Zach Wilson thing. You are happy that your offensive line could be one of the best in the NFL.
A tale of 2 injuries. Mekhi Becton we knew about throughout the season where he was coming back from the knee injury and also a foot injury, and the organization was going to have to diagnose it properly. Obviously, that did not happen. Second knee injury, done for the season, unfortunately. And Mekhi Becton, for somebody his size, you definitely wonder about that kind of thing. The offensive line being a very grueling position in the trenches where you're going to get constant contact all the time. And for a scheme with Mike LaFleur, that's a very offensive zone-oriented scheme. That's definitely worrisome for Mekhi Becton going forward in the long term for his development. Now, Dwayne Brown, absolutely good bargain deal. 2 years, $22 million for a guy that was just a Pro Bowler with the Seahawks. Now, it'll be quite a scheme adjustment. He's never been in a scheme this complex. That being said, Russell Wilson is a guy that does like to extend plays and roll out a lot on his own. So Dwayne Brown has to run with that too. So he's kind of used to that in recent years, especially being a Pro Bowler with the Seahawks last year. Mekhi Becton's injury more on the organization. Zach Wilson's injury, though, that was more on himself. Why is he trying to make that cut is my biggest question. Run out of bounds or slide. It's a preseason game. There's no need to prove yourself that you can make that kind of cut. It looked very awkward, and we've seen even in recent years, too, a lot of non-contact injuries have been just as bad for leg injuries as contact injuries. You look at Deshaun Watson, his rookie year, in practice, a non-contact injury. Dalvin Cook in a game against the Lions, his rookie year. He missed 12 games, was a non-contact injury on a cutback. David Johnson had that same kind of thing the following year. So those non-contact injuries can be just as bad. So there's no need to risk that in the preseason. Now, like you were saying, the diagnosis looks positive. Seems likely that Zach Wilson, if that's the case, will only miss a month. He might miss week 1 against the Ravens, but that might be it if that's the case. And remember, there's only 3 preseason games, so they get the extra week off to heal where he doesn't have to play either.
He did pass the ACL stability test, and usually when you pass the ACL stability test, it's not an ACL. You have top doctors over there with the New York Jets organization and trainers. They would know if it's an ACL or not. It doesn't show in the test that he have. And they're not going to play him because he's a franchise quarterback, and that means they're going to probably sit him out for the season, even if Zach wants to play with it. We all know about Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers almost half the season played with a partial torn ACL and didn't tell anybody about it.
It ended up being fully torn by the end of that season.
And in the playoffs.
In the AFC Championship. It was fully torn at that point, sometime during that game in the
I don't know how
quarter.
he played with that, by the way.
Obviously, they got blown out anyway, so I don't know if the result would have made that much of a difference.
It doesn't matter. The fact that he did it half the season and actually got his team to an AFC title game is fantastic.
The only time the Chargers have made the AFC Championship game in the 21st century. Kudos to him for that.
Could you imagine winning the Super Bowl with a torn ACL? Only Phillip Rivers could have done that.
Even if they didn't win, knock you off an undefeated Patriots team that season with a torn ACL, that would be one of the biggest upsets you'd see.
The Giants had an upset that year, so why couldn't a team like the San Diego Chargers do that too? So I think that if you look at the big picture, if you're a Jet fan today, you're not happy. You're not happy with Zach Wilson because there was no reason for him to cut that way. You're not happy with the outcome of Mekhi Becton because he was their top pick 2 years ago. It was Joe Douglas's first draft, and he was the number 11th pick. And everybody thought because of his size and his ability and his speed and his pass blocking and run blocking ability from Louisville, he was going to be a fantastic player in the NFL. It just hasn't cut it. The big ticket hasn't been the big ticket since season 1. So it's not a happy thought for the New York Jets. As far as the Giants are concerned, in week 1 of the preseason, Daniel Jones looked pretty good. Saquon Barkley looked pretty good. If you're a Giant fan right now, you're hoping because of their schedule and the way the schedule is and the NFC, how weak it is, because now it's so overlapped with the AFC and the talent over there and the quarterback play in the AFC, maybe the Giants have a chance this year to be a wild card team. If you look at all the teams, especially in their division, who scares you in the NFC East? The Cowboys. They have no offensive line right now. They're overpaying Zeke Elliott. You don't know what Dak Prescott is, and I love Dak. They have no wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb is the only one that's 100% healthy, and how long that's going to be. There's no more Amari Cooper. He's with the Cleveland Browns. So what are the Cowboys? Then you go to Philadelphia. We watched Philadelphia last night, at least in the first 2 drives. They scored 14 points. It wasn't Jalen Hurts. They have a tremendous amount of talent up front with the wide receivers that they have and some of the young tight ends that they have. They're going to be fun to watch. They have a good running game. Jalen Hurts is the guy that you're hoping that could take that next step. If not, they got 2 first-round draft picks next year. They'll be lurking and looking for a top-end quarterback with the quarterbacks that are going to be in that class. You look at the Washington Commanders, Carson Wentz, who's no longer with Indianapolis. He's on his 3rd team in 3 years. So he's a journeyman now. Figure that one out. The number 2 pick in the draft 6 years ago is now a journeyman in the NFL. Not surprised, even though I thought he had a great season last year. They added some wide receivers. Their defense played very well in the second half of the season, one of the better defenses in the league. But are they going to do it impactively all season long? Who knows? So the NFC East is very open. If you go through all the other divisions, I mean, Seattle's going to look like crap probably. They have Drew Lock throwing the ball. The 49ers will be good. Packers, because of Aaron Rodgers, only because of Aaron Rodgers, will still probably be good. A lot of people think Minnesota's going to be good.
I do.
I don't. I think they lost a lot of pieces this offseason. They did lose a couple of linebackers. Definitely will affect their defense. Maybe offensively they'll be more explosive, but defensively they're not going to be anywhere close to the team that they were. They were dominant in the last 3 or 4 years.
No, they're definitely more of an offensive team now.
Tampa will be good, as always, because Tom Brady. How many teams? The Saints? Are you going to trust Jameis Winston? Taysom Hill? Are you going to trust him? I can't trust that.
Also, Alvin Kamara could be suspended, too.
Yeah, he could be suspended.
His court case is next month.
The Rams will be good, too, because of all the acquisitions they made in the offseason. I expect them to be very good. But the NFC is really 4 large. That means there's 2 wild card teams that could be 9-7 that could make the playoffs. And whoever wins the NFC East, I think, wins 10 games. I was listening to many different people tell me that they can win 11, 12. The Cowboys, they're not winning 11.
Maybe the Eagles. I don't think any other team.
I don't even think the Eagles are going to win 11 or 12 games. I think whoever wins that division is going to win 10 games. Maybe one of the wild card teams could come out of that, winning 9 games.
Maybe like the last one or something.
Yeah, but the Giants, if they win 9 games this year, which quite possibly could happen because of the way their schedule is set up. And Daniel Jones steps up, and I think he could, and I think Daboll's a good coach. You saw it in the preseason game.
Modern concepts.
Yeah, modern concepts, using the running back in the open field. That's what you expect from a good offense. If they can run that offense and it's successful in the NFC like it was in the AFC East, maybe the Giants make the playoffs.
There's two good takeaways I like from this first Giants preseason game. Exactly what you were saying with Daboll. There's finally some actual motion in this offense. You saw guys moving around at the line of scrimmage pre-snap, and what you said about Saquon Barkley. They're using him in the passing game a lot more often, too, which is definitely going to add another weapon to this team. Now, the Giants, in terms of their receivers, they didn't play a lot of the starting receivers in that game, outside of Galladay for one drive, and the Wan'Dale Robinson was on the field for a drive in the slot, but didn't get targeted very often. It was mainly Colin Johnson that got those reps. But Daboll is comfortable with using multiple guys in that sense, and I think the play calling itself will definitely make a difference. Daniel Jones looked pretty good, I would say. He missed a couple short throws. That was really his only flaw. But he was rolling out. He had a couple nice throws on the run, too, which is good to see. Defensively, their secondary is kind of questionable, but I think their front seven looked good. Thibodeaux looked good in the little bit he played. And outside of Ojulari, everyone was healthy on the defense, too. That's a good sign. You don't ever want injuries at that point. You were talking about with the Jets. They tried to limit the pad practices because of that. A lot of teams are doing that now since the Rams started doing it when McVay got hired. And I think the Giants, very similar approach, trying to keep everyone healthy. Tony, the only one hurt on the offense, and Ojulari really the only one on the defense right now.
I think when you look at the Giants, you expect Thibodeaux to really approach this season as a rookie, but also show people that he could be a top pass rusher in this league. And if he does become that, the Giants have what they've always built over the years, is a good pass rusher on the edge, and they could build around him. And if they do that, a year from now, 2 years from now, they could be a Super Bowl contender. We've seen this before. They did that when Michael Strahan was getting old. What did they bring? They bring in Justin Tuck. They had O.C. Umenyiora there. If Thibodeaux is the guy and he's the approach, maybe they had another pass rusher or a free agent pass rusher to the other edge, and then you have something. Then you have a legitimate pass rush. And the Giants have won over the years, if you remember, especially in the 80s and the early 90s, they had a pass rush. And if they have a pass rush, they'll find a way in the secondary to stop the other teams and the weapons that they have in the open field. And the Giants win.
Even Super Bowl 46, Justin Tuck and Umenyiora there, but also then they draft Jason Pierre-Paul, too. Third pass rusher.
That's what they do. And if they can do that and build around the pass rush, which it's always about building around the trenches. You listen to every GM and successful GM that's made it in this league. You talk about Baltimore. You talk about 49ers, San Francisco. You talk about all the teams that have won over the years, even the New England Patriots. They built around the trenches. Big offensive line, very good run-stopping defenses that can stop the run, make teams one-dimensional. What does that mean when you're a one-dimensional team? You know what that team's going to do, which means you're one step ahead of the other team to stop.